There goes.
I'm gonna go home for that.
Okay.
My family's having an event.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know why I was being weird there, but here we go. Awesome. So if you're ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it. Cool.
Ready.
Awesome. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another live and Amplified Livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quat, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Hanna. How's it going today, Liv?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well. It is, I'm not going to complain about the heat here because you're in Miami, so I'm sure it is just as bad, if not worse there. So
For sure. 95 and humid every day.
yeah, I'm in Central Texas, and it's 97, just not humid. It's like, that humidity is not there. So yeah, but excited to have you here. Excited to sit down and chat with you a little bit. I've been talking to who is it? Your manager, I think it is, MEI.
Yeah.
Been talking to them about getting this set up for a little bit. So excited to finally get this on.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So you're based out of Miami now, but you're originally from New York. Born, raised New York.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Garden City, so Long Island, New York. It's like 20 minutes from Manhattan, which is loved growing up with that experience.
Gotcha.
So,
New York's one of those things where I could just say New York, and it's like I could mean the city, I could mean the state, nobody really knows. And
yeah.
So but yeah, glad to have you on. Growing up in New York, what was it like growing up in New York for you?
Well, we would go to a lot of Broadway shows because my family is very musical. So we would always go into the city, and we have like all of our playbills stacked in the basement and all of our like signed posters from Hamilton and Wicked all framed. So like, I'm so thankful that I was just able to go to a show whenever, and I was 20 minutes from the city. So I really loved having that experience. And yeah.
Nice. And so that was kind of your introduction to music, was through Broadway plays and stuff like that?
Yes, and also my dad is very into music, so he collects guitars, and in our house we have all the guitars, we have a drum set, all that stuff, and we have the piano, of course. And I started taking piano lessons at a very young age, maybe like 8, I would say, and I took voice lessons at the same time too. So I was exposed at a very young age to all genres.
Sweet. So who are you listening to at that point, as far as like musically influencing you, outside of the like Broadway musical stuff?
Back then, honestly, I would say Alicia Keys, because my dad was like obsessed with her and had like her CD or whatever. So we'd always listen to her in the car, and just like old rap, I guess. Like this isn't even that old, like Jay-Z, he loved Jay-Z.
Okay.
So I like grew up on that, but then he also did like rock, like AC/DC, like everything.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's what I really like about the generation of musicians that are coming up and have been around for a little bit, is they've got this like wide eclectic range of influences, that because their families were, you had the brother that liked hip hop, and then you had the dad that liked the rock music, and then you had like the mom that liked pop or country, like depending on what it was. And so just kind of a lot of the musicians nowadays kind of being exposed to that is really cool, and it's opening a lane for like genre bending music right now, which is really interesting to listen to. So
I completely agree.
Oh, so you'd mentioned that you started taking piano lessons and vocal lessons at the age, you said 8, correct?
Yeah, I think it was around 8.
Yeah. So at what point did you kind of discover that writing music was something that you wanted to look into?
I would say it was about like 11, 12. I was in middle school, and I don't even know what I was writing about. I guess like the angst of like going through like from like middle school to high school and all of that. But I was really like, I was doing community theater, like I said, and like theater intensives, and I was studying like opera, like classically with my teacher. So I thought like, oh, I'm going to be an opera voice major. Oh, I'm going to do like a BFA theater program in college. And then like I was 12 years old, and I was like composing my own melodies and coming up with chord progressions and lyrics. And I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah. So you originally thought you were going to go into like the more classically trained opera realm, and then
anything. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that I was going to be a songwriter when I was in like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. I just like knew like, oh, I want to do music, whatever that was.
Yeah. And at that time, because you'd been going to Broadway plays, I mean, you had your parents listening to music and whatnot, and your family was really musical, but it's just like, okay, it's this or this, and that's
Yeah.
all it was. So no, so that's really cool that you started discovering songwriting. Some of those early songs, I'm assuming you probably still don't play those, do you? Or
I don't.
okay.
One of them I recorded, and I think maybe I was like 14 when I
Mhm.
decided to like record it, and I went to the city and I did like a whole music video for it. It's called Aftermath. I don't even know if the video is still on YouTube, but that if you want to try, it might be on Spotify if you want to try and look for it. But
Fair,
that was like my first like recorded song ever.
fair. Well, yeah, at least you didn't completely try and scrub it from the internet. Like, it may still be out
Somewhere.
there, it may not be. So, because a lot of musicians, they go through like a rebrand, or the music doesn't represent them, so they sometimes will take it down, and it's like you have to like really dig in the deep dark interwebs, and it's like,
Mhm.
man, I kind of want to hear some of that early stuff, because
I
some of
know. Yeah, I
some
was like going through rebranding when I released Back to Hell,
mm,
and I was telling everyone like, oh, I'm changing all my pictures, I'm changing like my vibe, and I'm like dark alt pop now. And I have 10 singles out, well, now I have
mhm.
11. And I literally wanted to delete like 8 of them. And everyone was like, no, like I still like this from like 2018 or
Yeah,
2019. So I'm just gonna keep them. But I wanted to do exactly that.
yeah.
So I get
But
it.
it's just one of those things. Like, I get it from both sides, where it's like it doesn't really represent me, but there's
Yeah,
people that still want to listen to it. So it's, yeah,
yeah, I'll leave it.
yeah, for sure. Um, so how does the kind of the transition from New York to Miami happen? Was that something that you had always been planning, or
So I go to the University of Miami. I'm in
okay?
the Frost School of Music, and originally I applied early decision to NYU,
Mhm.
and they were both, I didn't get in, but it's okay because this was also like my dream school. Like they were
Yeah.
tied it too. So I'm just so happy that I got in here. And I got like the half music ride, and I love, love, love it. So everything happens for a reason because I
Mm.
can't even see myself staying in New York. This is just like branched. I needed to branch out and not
Yeah.
live 20 minutes from my parents. So
Yeah.
I love it here.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And that's always kind of an interesting question, because you see a lot of people that when they take on music as a career, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna either move to New York, LA, Nashville, so, and more recently it's been Austin, but it's like there's those three or four major cities where they're trying to move to, and then you're like, yep, I need to get out of this major city, and which I 100% understand, because I grew up in the south side of Chicago, and the first thing I did was left as quickly as I could.
Yeah.
So, um, so you've been in Miami full time now for a couple days. I mean, I know you said you're going to school there, but you've been there full time now, a couple days,
Um,
or
yeah, I think it's been like 3 years, like in
oh,
general. But I just moved into my apartment, my new one, like last week. So I've been here for like a week in my new.
gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was built, because sometimes going to school, it's like you leave for the summer, you leave for break or whatever, but moving into an apartment, it's like that makes it like an official move in my book. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so, uh, so let's talk about the new single, "Back to Hell," which is absolutely amazing. I really enjoy listening to the song.
Thank
Um, what's kind of the story behind the song?
well, I think Back to Hell, in my opinion, kind of like is my negative headspace. Like when I say I'm going back to hell, I'm like going back to like my negative thinking, or it could be like bad habits or like negative patterns in my life,
Mhm.
or it could be a relationship for someone, people can interpret it however they want, but like whatever's not good for you, it's like, oh, you're getting sucked back into that.
Mhm.
So that's basically what it is, but it's also a reminder that even if you're feeling like that depression or whatever it may be, or that isolation, that it's so relatable. Like, unfortunately, a lot of people go through that.
Mhm.
So, although it's a sad song, it's supposed to be a reminder that we're not alone. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I definitely picked up on that. And it was quite interesting as I was kind of getting acquainted with you, listening to all your music in general. You brought up that you were like classically trained, doing like opera and stuff. And that was the first thing I picked up on listening to your music, because I've listened to a lot of music where it's like you got the more classically trained whether they were going to be an opera singer or whatever it was. And then you got the more DIY trained, and there's like definitely a spectrum of music there, because like there's a certain clarity in your voice that I picked up on that has like that tends to come from the more classical training, where your diction and your just like the overall clarity is right there, where some musicians, it's like they're a little bit more rougher around the edges. So yeah, that was the first thing. Yeah. So Back to Hell, it released back in June, correct?
Yeah, June 2nd.
Cool. So what kind of went into the thought process behind this song? I know you were saying that you were kind of going through like a rebrand with this. Why did you choose this to kind of be that first song? Like, I mean, I know you said you have a bunch of stuff already out there, but why did you kind of choose this to be that first song of the new you, essentially?
That's so funny. I have a song called New You. But anyways, I just really loved it when I wrote it. I was like, this is the one. And I did it differently than I did most of my other songs, because I've said in other interviews that I usually start at the piano, like I have my keyboard over there. And this time I was watching Modern Family in my bed, and I just started journaling, and I was like, oh, I'm so tired of overthinking. Like I didn't even have a melody. I was journaling, watching my show. And that's how the song started. So it was like really deeply personal for me. And it wasn't just like, oh, like these are cool chords, I was like, this is so cool. Like I loved it. And then after I wrote that, I wrote a bunch of other songs that kind of go with like the same vibe. And I was like, now I felt more secure in who I was. And this was just this year. Like I wrote it in October. And I feel like I'm more secure as an artist, and like what I want to sound like, and what I want like my genre kind of to be, and like my inspo artists. And what I've released in the past was kind of like not my vibe, as we've spoken about. And now I feel like I'm trying to work on an EP, and all the songs are so like cohesive together. So I'm very excited for everyone to hear it.
Nice. That was actually going to ultimately where I was building to. What is like, are you building to an EP and whatnot? And that once you do get this out, this will be your first full project, or
Yes.
full project, right? Okay. What? So leading into the EP, where are you kind of at on that process? Are you still writing the music, or are you recording? Where are you kind of at?
Okay, so I think that all the songs like are written, and I think Back to Hell is gonna be on it, obviously. That's the name of it. So Back to Hell is done. Sign It on the Line. I'm allowed to say the names. That's done. Crazy's like just needs to be recorded, but it's just a ballad, so it's just me and the piano. I was at the studio last night doing Lonely. Do you see how they're all kind of like the same vibe? I don't know. I don't know if you could get that from the titles, but I'd say it's coming along like 70%, 60%.
Yeah. Hey, you're giving it a percentage, so that means you're moving on pretty good. Like if you weren't giving a percentage, then it's like, okay, you're still in the very beginning phases.
We're making progress.
Yeah. Are you I'm assuming you're trying to get that out this year, or just kind of whenever it's ready?
Whenever it's ready. And I want to release them as singles first, because sometimes when you drop an EP, like that's it. All the songs are out. Like how many streams are you really going to get, So I gotta like tease them first.
Yep, 100%. That's kind of the name of the game right now, is like, yeah, doing full projects are still really cool for somebody like me, because I enjoy sitting down, listening to the full story, and just like whether it's on vinyl, or like if you release it on vinyl or whatever it is, just sitting down and listening to the whole thing front to cover or front to back. But the name of the game right now is singles, because you kind of run, you pretty much, in the course of putting out an EP, it's the same as putting out a single, because it's like they're going to listen to it, and in 3 months you're going to have something ready to go again. So
I know. Yeah, I agree with you. So whenever it's ready, and I have some singles out first.
nice. Awesome. So kind of piggybacking off of that with the whole thing, you're obviously still working on the EP, and you're getting there. What's been the biggest struggle of trying to work on this entire project?
I've really loved this project, so I don't really have anything negative to say. This is more a criticism on my end. I think I need to better articulate like what sounds I want, and how like I want my music to come across and come to life, and that's just something I need to work on.
Yeah.
But making sure that everything is like 100% like the way I want it, and
Yeah.
like I say like, oh, this here, like it happens, and
Yeah.
I love it before I master it and release it.
Yeah, I got you. And that's kind of where I'm going with that question is it's not so much thinking of something negative, but like thinking and working on a EP or an LP, just like a bigger project like that has to come with some different challenges to overcome versus like a single, because it's like a single. All right, sounds good to me. Really, but with like an EP, you have to make sure the marketing's in play. You have to make sure that
I was also
everything. Go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but also like the order of the songs
Mm,
is so important. And I've literally since January, I've been like trying to like put them in different orders.
yeah,
It's just like 5 or 6 songs, but you have to like create that story and have like a balance. And so
yeah,
like,
100%. 100%. And so obviously it's summertime right now. So are you taking summer classes or no? Or is that
I tried to. I wanted to take math and it just didn't happen. So I'm just gonna take it in the fall. But
fair? Very
yeah.
fair. Oh, okay, but kind of during the summer, are you playing how regularly are you playing shows right now? Is that something you're doing pretty consistently or since
Yeah, I've really been trying to. I'm
Mhm,
like online trying to find like guitarists and drummers and whatnot to create like a band and
mm,
gig, and I'm calling places like ready to gig.
mm,
So fingers crossed because I'm ready. So
gotcha. Gotcha, for sure. And it's obviously 4th of July weekend right now. What are your plans for the weekend?
so I'm gonna fly home to New York. I'm just gonna be there for like a few days because I'm working in Miami, but
Mhm.
my family's there and my friends are having like a whole big event. So
Yes.
yeah, I had to be there.
Awesome, awesome. So that'll be a fun trip. It'll be cool to go back home and just kind
Yeah.
of
See
not
my
have to, yeah. Oh, awesome, awesome. But kind of moving forward outside of music, when it's time for you to take a break and kind of relax, decompress, all that fun stuff. What do you do? What are some of your hobbies? Stuff like that.
Okay, so I feel like this is so basic, but I have to say I love Pilates. This is such a stupid thing to say, but like I go like 4 times a week. I have it after this interview. It's just my favorite thing because it's like grounding and you have to focus and like not think about anything else. Like it's different than like running on the treadmill or like going to the gym. So I love that. I love working out too and just like watching a show, going to the beach. I've been painting recently. Not that
Oh
this is
wow,
good, but like I
nice.
like these little Chanel shirts on
Mhm.
coat hangers. So that's something that I do. But I mean, it's really just like songwriting in my free time or singing karaoke.
Mm,
So on
nice.
YouTube.
Yeah, I got you. That's cool. What's your favorite karaoke song?
Oh gosh.
Or
I
what's
mean,
your
Love on the
go-to? I
Brain.
guess.
Yeah, Love on the Brain Rihanna is a good one. I've been singing like Part of Your World lately because the Little Mermaid movie, but like Fleetwood Mac too, like Stevie Nicks songs. I
Mhm.
love her. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's really cool. And the painting, is that something that you've always kind of done throughout your childhood, or is that something like 100% brand
I
new you've started
mean,
to?
it's kind of like a little new. Like I took
Mhm.
like an art class in like 3rd grade. Like I didn't even think I could do this. My friend was over and she was like, let's just paint. And I was like, okay. And then yeah, so now I have like all my canvases and like the paints and the brushes and like a whole little
Nice.
setup. So it's
Nice.
self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That I think that's something that a lot of people kind of overlook when they're kind of chasing their dreams, whether it be like in any world, is they overlook the self-care aspect of things.
Mhm.
And I think that's super important for people.
For sure. Because
Um,
yeah, sorry. I
no,
was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
keep grinding, then you're gonna burn out. So you have to like take the time to like have downtime for yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's just kind of funny because like just behind you, it looks like all white, and you've got the paint right there. It's like, oh, that would scare the hell out of me because if I spill this or anything, it's just gonna be ruined.
I know. Yeah. I was painting on my bed too, on my white comforter. But
Uh,
it's
yeah.
fine.
But that's just me because it's like I got the dropsies, like I'll drop anything, and it's like, oh yeah, everything in my house is like a dark color. So if I drop anything on it, it's not as big of a deal. So Yeah. But yeah, cool. So kind of moving forward with the Back to Hell, it's out now. People can listen to it. What do you
Mhm.
hope people can take away from the song as they listen to it?
Um, I hope that they realize that they aren't alone in what they're going through. I'm not saying everyone's like depressed,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that like whatever hardship you're going through, like your other people are going through hardships too. Like you don't know everybody's problems and everyone's going through something, you know? So I hope
Hmm.
that people can relate to it in some way, shape, or form and just like feel less alone in going through their problems or fighting whatever struggle it is.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. And then one thing that we like to do on the podcast here is we like to pass on knowledge with the young musicians out there. And so from your standpoint, what's something you've learned throughout your musical career that you wish you would have known when you first got started?
I would say be patient, which is a little bit hard for me. But it's very important, especially when you're working with people. Like
Mm.
it takes months for like a perfect song. It can't be like da 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 da. You have to be patient, and like if you really want it to turn out perfectly, you gotta put the time and effort and like sit there. And then another thing that I would say for artists or songwriters is don't criticize or don't compare yourself.
Mhm.
And that means to other people, but it also means don't compare like yourself or your songs to your past work.
Mhm.
Like I've been songwriting and I'm like, oh my God, Back to Hell's so good. Like this doesn't sound like it. Of course it doesn't sound like it because it's a new story and it's a
Mm.
totally different like project, you know?
Yeah,
So you just like can't compare and be like, this sucks. No, just don't judge it and just write what you're feeling. So that's
yeah.
very important, I think.
For sure, for sure. The so one thing that I wanted to talk about here really quick, which I also think is very important, is to recognize growth, and which is kind of funny because the first single on your pod or on your Spotify is "Grown." So,
Yeah.
how have you kind of grown as a musician from that first release in 2020 up until Back to Hell?
Oh my gosh, I have grown immensely. But I would say that all my songs still kind of resonate with the same themes because if you
Mhm.
listen back on that or watch the video, it's me and my high school friends in the city in our all girls Catholic school uniforms. And then like the subway closes and opens and
Yeah,
we're like in our individual outfits as
yeah.
like our own people who have grown.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What was the question again? I don't even remember.
Oh, how have you grown as a musician
Oh, how
from?
I've grown.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that moving to Miami, honestly, has just opened my horizons and I'm able to like experience different things and just write differently than I was in New York because I'm an only child
Mm.
also. So I kind of was like sheltered and like, yeah, I had my piano and my studio in my house, but like I really had like nothing to write about. Like I
Mm.
went to an all girls school, like I lived in the suburbs, like you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just being like this big city and like just going out and like having experiences, I am able to write a whole other list of things and networking with the people in Frost as well has been amazing.
For
It's
sure, for sure. So did you move to Miami like right in the middle of the pandemic, or were you there
um
before the pandemic kicked off?
it was like it was August 2021. So it
Okay.
was a year after.
So like as things were really starting to come down and yeah.
Yeah, we had to wear masks and there were a lot of rules like in classes and
Mm.
everything. It was pretty strict, but yeah, it's crazy
Yeah.
how that
I
started.
felt so bad for the like just the people that had to go to school during that time, especially like the high schoolers in
Mhm.
2020. They'd gone to school and they graduate 2020, and it's like, oh, you're not graduate. Well, you're graduating, but
Yeah.
not really. So
Yeah, I didn't go to school. I stayed home. I was like, I'm not gonna do this.
right.
Yeah.
I got you. Oh, so you moved you went to University of Miami in 2021.
Mhm.
Was a lot of the music that you were releasing during that time, was that stuff that you had recorded in New York, or were you
Yeah.
did you
So
start go ahead.
I was recording with my former manager and
Mm.
this engineer that I had in New York. And they were great, they were amazing, but I feel like I couldn't do as much with them because
Mm.
I was in Miami for most of the year.
Yeah.
So all the stuff from freshman year, I would say, was from New York. And
Hmm.
then just this past year, I would say October, November, when I wrote Back to Hell, I
Mm.
found a new studio in Miami which was perfect because I could go like after class like 3 times a week and stay like as long as I needed to, and I was getting so much done. So I love that
Nice.
experience.
That's awesome. So Back to Hell is the first project recorded
Yeah.
in Miami.
Yes, correct.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really cool. What's kind did you notice any like differences between the obviously outside of like working with your management team and whatnot, but from like the recording studio aspect, did you notice any differences or is yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that I felt a little bit more present
Mm,
and opinionated in the production
yeah.
aspect. But it also like I wasn't able to control that in New York because like they would mix like upstate or wherever. Like I wasn't always available and I would be in Miami like going to class, you know? So
Mhm.
it just was more efficient and productive because I was able to be there like 6 p.m. to midnight. We'd like order Chipotle. I'd go to class the next morning and then I'd come back after class the next, you know? So
Yeah,
it was just like a flow. Like whenever I was free, I'd just like hop on over there. It's right next to campus.
for sure. So you felt a lot more present in the full project, whereas like New
Mhm.
York, you had like a day, so you'd go cut the audio, and then you were pretty much cut out of the
Flying
rest
back.
of the
Yeah.
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 Which, I mean, that's I could see where that's like annoying. Well, I mean, I guess annoying may or may not be the best term to use it, but just kind of feeling disconnected from your own work.
Yeah.
It's like
Disconnected.
it's but so Back to Hell, first full project in Miami. You're fully a Floridian. How you
Yes.
how are you enjoying living in South Florida?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I could stay in Florida for the rest of my life, raise my kids here, and die here. Like, I love Florida so much.
My dad wishes I had that attitude, but I, you know, I've lived in Florida off and on since I was in college. So since 2012, after I graduated college, like I lived with my mom and dad when they were living up a little bit further north of West Palm Beach, and then I lived in Orlando for a bit, and I lived up in like the Panhandle for a couple of
Wow.
years. And so I've been all over the state, and it's just like the only place that I'd ever really consider staying is if I was rich enough to like live in the Keys, the Florida Keys.
Yeah, the Keys are
So
nice. Boca, like,
yeah,
yeah,
it,
Miami.
if I could afford that far south, I'd move to Florida. But the way things are going, I couldn't afford to live in the Keys. So, but but yeah, so just kind of moving forward, if anybody wants to check out your music, any upcoming shows, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find all that?
So my Instagram and my TikTok, and then I have a link tree on both of those platforms to my website and my Spotify and all of that. So my Instagram is live, Liv, Hanna, HANNAAA. And then my TikTok is live Hanna songs. And I think there
Awesome.
are 2 X's at the end of that.
Gotcha. Awesome. And then one thing we like to do to end every podcast with is I have a random question generator, and I'm going to ask you the first question that pops up.
Okay, I'm nervous.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Hmm. I mean, I would say to read minds, just because I want to know what people are thinking about me.
Yeah, fair. I completely understand that one. It's just like,
Yeah,
people are good at faking it.
curious.
So,
Yeah.
um, but then again, you get that truth that it's like, oh man, I didn't
Did I
really want
really
to.
want to know that? I know.
Yeah,
Do I want that superpower?
right. For sure. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. Enjoy your Pilates class. I've never done it, but I've done yoga, so I don't know.
There are men in the class.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
it's
try it. But thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you want to support Live and Amplified, liveandamplified.net is our website. Please feel free to check it out. But once again, Liv, Hanna, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you all later.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye, guys.